Well, hello everyone. I'm back. I have to admit I took a break. Right now, I'm blessed to be up here at the top of the ski hill in Cordova. I'm wearing shorts and probably not the greatest fashion statement in the world, my hiking boots, and looks like I chose wisely because I had to come through some snow to get up here. And as you can see, it's a beautiful day in Cordova. It's probably about 60, 65, not much wind. Had an amazing day yesterday. Did some intervals. The gym's closed, which is unfortunate. They're gonna reassess on the 15th of May. So my exercise yesterday, I called it my hard day. It was walking through town for about an hour and a half in the sunshine, getting some vitamin D, and pretty much I took advantage of 3 hills and sprinted up them. Made it about 45 seconds on each hill before I went to point of failure. In between sprints, I did sets of 40 push-ups to point of failure. And then I did a sprint on the dike, which is about 400 yards long, and I made it for 55 seconds and probably about 350 yards. Not as fast as I once was, I guess. Anyways, I'm not gonna lie to you, I burn out a little bit on coronavirus, but I'm gonna spend a little time here from the beat up picnic table at the top of the Cordova ski hill to just talk to you about some ramblings on the coronavirus right now and my thoughts on how it should affect society, what we should do from here on out, reasonable strategies for reasonable people, point out some of my concern about the disease profit model motivation of this whole crisis, some of the conspiracy theory stuff, and a little bit of the science. So I guess I'll spin around and let you look at my ugly mug here for a bit and we'll talk. Apologize if there's sound quality issues. There's a slight breeze here. I tried to get some electronic equipment, microphones that, have Bluetooth and all that. Couldn't figure it out. Patrick with Synergenics IT department's working on that for me. Probably in a few weeks, my professionalism with these YouTube videos will go up a little bit. Until then, I apologize. Oh, the fashion statement. Don't you love that? But it was a good choice. Like I said, we got snow coming up here. All right, what do we start with? Well, I want to share with everybody that on Facebook, I am going to share a Medscape article that I really enjoyed. The Medscape, I always worry, might be a little bit controlled by the pharmaceutical industry and the disease profit model, though they rescue me from that thought every once in a while. And a guy came out with an article very cogent about why we can't test our way out of this crisis. And rather than go into the specifics of what he said, I'm just gonna tell you the guy's spot on. Look, there is no definitive 100% sensitive test. Again, if you can find me the specificity of the PCRs and the sensitivity, and remember, there's all different tests out there, and everybody in the other countries isn't testing the same way. You can't find the data. It may be as low as 60% sensitive. What that means is positive tests are useful, okay? The positive tests are good in that they are pretty specific on the PCRs. But negative doesn't mean you don't have it. You could test everybody every day for the rest of eternity. It can't fix the problem. So you testing gurus, I think part of it's politically driven, don't know for sure. I wish you guys would get rid of the politics in this. We're all goofed in this together. Okay, the antibody tests, probably more sensitive. But, in other words, if it's been a few weeks since you've contracted it, you probably got antibodies. But, less specific. Other coronaviruses can probably make you test positive. So, good for statistical analysis of the prevalence of disease and helpful for calculating mortality. And by the way, I haven't said anything on any of these YouTube videos that I've come to regret. Like way back when I told you, when they were saying 3 and 4% mortality in this country, I said, nah. It's going to be less than 0.5%, probably between 0.1 and 0.5%. And if I had to guess, I'd say 0.3%, and I'm kind of mad at myself. I wished I'd have had more cojones and said 0.1%. It's not a high mortality disease. The problem with this virus is it's sneaky. You can shed it for days before you have symptoms. You can have no symptoms at all and have the virus, okay? We can't definitively test to prove you don't have it. And if you get it, it's highly contagious. That is why it's worse than the flu. Now, the panacea of we're just going to get rescued by the vaccine. Guess what, folks? Coronaviruses have been around a long time. You ever hear of the common cold? The pharmaceutical industry has had a vested interest in trying to cure the common cold for a long time. Market forces have been looking for a vaccine to the common cold for way before this little booger came around, and we ain't found one. So sitting here thinking we're just gonna self-isolate until the vaccine comes out is about the stupidest thing I've ever heard, okay? You can't take that approach. Guess what? We have to take some risk. I'm gonna talk a little bit about Cordova here, okay? The canneries are bringing people in from out of state. Alaska has almost no disease. We've got the lowest percentage of positive tests, now down to less than 1.7% of people tested get a positive result. So if you get tested in Alaska, presumably because you think you might have it, you have a symptom or something, or you had an exposure, or you're high risk and they got to make sure you don't have it, your chance of the test being positive is less than 1 in 50, okay? I don't advocate this, but I could probably lick every doorknob in Cordova and not get coronavirus, okay? I wouldn't do that because I myself, as a physician, have to take myself to a higher level of being careful, which is exactly how we all ought to be thinking. If you're a healthy 20-year-old and you don't have to visit any old people that you love that are compromised, you should still not be a jerk. You should be careful. You should wear a mask when you go in a grocery store for now. You should try not to get this, even though the likelihood of this impacting your physiology negatively is so close to zero, it's probably, might as well look at it as zero, okay? There's outliers in everything. Somebody's gonna die of a paper cut this year in America, okay? Paper cut, lymphangitis, sepsis, death. Cause of death, paper cut. They'd call it sepsis, but the real cause of death is paper cut. And they're using those same sort of logic to call all these COVID deaths, when in reality we got people in nursing homes that probably were gonna die within the next 6 months. They got sick and died when they contracted COVID virus, so that becomes a COVID death. Now, where was I? Okay, you're young, you're healthy, still do reasonable mitigation, but should you have to do the complete shutdown of life that other people, that everybody does? No. I think I saw a statistic today, a doctor talked about it on TV, that about 30% of the adult population is high risk if they get coronavirus. Hey, those of you, you know, you're high risk. You know, you're actually responsible for yourself to take greater measures to not get this disorder, okay? I'm more responsible because I have to go see you if I get called into the emergency room down there right now. I'll have to sprint down the hill. I can make it down in way less than 20 minutes and be to the ER like my requirements are. But I don't want to contract it to you. I can honestly tell you right now, because of that aspect of my personal life, I have not been within 6 feet of another human being other than my family without an N95 mask on. And I started that behavior in late February when I was traveling down to Montana to work and ended up getting quarantined. It's time to take some chances. The canneries have brought in all these people. They have done a tremendous job mitigating the risk, in my opinion, from what I can see. I have not read every single proposal, but here's basically what they're doing. They're fencing in the units, they're making the workers sign an affidavit that they're not going to leave the compound so they can't expose the population. They're testing them at the front end and at the back end of a 14-day monitored quarantine, and so far there has been one of those quarantine people tested positive, and they're doing further mitigation. With that happening all over the state, there's probably going to be a cluster in a couple of places that are tough to deal with. But you know what? They're providing the healthiest form of protein on planet Earth to you. And we've got to start thinking in terms of reactivating society and doing things that are reasonable. And I actually think that's reasonable, although it creates some risk. There's going to be risk. We can't just write that off. We need to be careful. So look, what can we actually do? I'm kind of done with reading about coronavirus. I get so much stuff that I have to pick what I'm going to read, and I'm through reading about how to manage the critically ill, because you know what? I don't work in an environment where I'm going to do the long-term management of the critically ill. I know I can do the ABCs in my sleep: airway, breathing, circulation, okay? And if somebody is really compromised in one of the settings that I have to see them in, like here in Cordova, I can get them on a mechanical ventilation and get them out of here, and that's about as far as it's going to go for me. I don't have an ICU. So that's a waste of my time. I mean, it's interesting. When I had nothing else to do and I was quarantined, it was encompassing, but that's over with. Now I've got to spend my time usefully. I like the epidemiology, but I'm so fed up with so many different points of views. I've watched some of the conspiracy theories, and they hold some water. I'll share on my YouTube channel a guy that cracked me up. A long-haired, red-haired guy, obviously fit, really funny, obviously picking on the fact that, the government's the world is trying to take control of the population through this. And I do worry about our freedoms. I don't know what's right or wrong on these answers. I really don't. Nobody does. We don't know if there's going to be any long-term immunity from having been exposed. I can tell you this: at some point we're going to have to let the herd get exposed, and there's going to be people that die from that conceptual model. Just like if we try to avoid ever allowing the herd to be exposed and just keep praying that a vaccine comes along and it doesn't, a ton of people are going to die from the economic hardships of this. That's just reasonable. You're delusional if you don't recognize that balance, and life is about balance. All right, from here on out, I'm through with the coronavirus for the most part, unless something impactful comes up and I just feel a burning desire to share it with you. I want to talk about what you can do to protect yourself, because at the end of the day, you're the one who's responsible for your outcome, okay? Obviously, I'm not going through the mitigation stuff. I'm talking about making your physiology where if you get it, you don't die or become a burden or even have to go to the ER or the hospital, okay? Fitness. Fitness is associated with a decreased level of every single disease process that is identified as a risk factor for a bad outcome in coronavirus, other than age. Because although your chronological age and your physiological age are different, and I would say that if you're 80 and physiologically 55, which there are people that probably are in that average, they're at much less risk. Obesity, insulin sensitivity, systemic inflammation, high blood pressure, full-blown diabetes, all the immunological health. Fitness is a panacea, okay? So what's the strategy? Well, you're stuck inside. Hopefully your state's not such a bunch of retards that they've literally prohibited you from going outdoors. I don't care if you have to drive an hour. Get outside. Sun is good. It's probably good for the virus. I wonder what Cuomo's thinking now that 66% of the people who've contracted coronavirus did it while they were quarantined in their homes. Okay? I think it's time to get out. And if you can do it, do it. I've been outside every chance I've got. Okay, yesterday I did my sprints. I walked for an hour and a half in the sunshine, dressed in shorts, gathering some vitamin D. When I hit hills, I sprinted to point of failure. Sprint interval training. I've given up the heart rate monitor. I know when I'm tapped out. Run so hard, you feel like you're gonna die. Stop, recover. Do something else. I can't find anywhere to do pull-ups, but I've been looking. Do some push-ups. Get some activity. Get the heart flowing. It improves your fitness level more rapidly than any other method. On your off days, at least walk a bunch. I took the hill today. Now, I didn't sprint up the hill at all today because you do need to rest. Overtraining is bad. If you overtrain, if you try to do sprint interval training every day, you will drive up your cortisol levels. Cortisol fights your health, okay? So, you can do some long, slow distance on your off days to burn a few more calories, trim some of that fat that puts you at higher risk, but don't sprint interval train every day. Balance, just like reopening. We got to balance things, okay? I would say if you can get on stationary equipment, because you can't get out, that's great. I do want to caution you about this outdoor sprinting. I did a sprint yesterday on flat ground, and the reason I like to sprint up hills is because there's less impact, okay? Your joints aren't pounding as hard because you're reaching up and pulling yourself up and driving yourself up. You get more exercise through vertical change than horizontal, and I gas out faster, and I don't put as much wear and tear on my joints. Man, this morning I woke up with a pretty good case of sacroiliitis. That's a fancy word for where my left side of my pelvis connects to my sacrum. That joint's inflamed now. Hurts pretty good. Another reason why I didn't do any sprints, but you know, I try not to interval train every day. So again, balance. My nutrition, I'm doing the best I can, best I've ever done, to be honest. I mean, I just basically, for the last several months, and not because of coronavirus specifically, but trying to set an example, and because I've had some inability to train as hard as I usually do. They talk about abs being made in the kitchen. The way you lose fat is the hole in your face, not exercising at a unsustainable level. And since I can't exercise as much, which is helpful because keep in mind, energy stored, which is fat, is equal to energy in minus energy out. Well, you can use energy out to help decrease energy stored, but by far the most important factor is energy in. I think I'm going to call it a day for that. I do encourage you guys to start thinking about how you eat. I've covered nutrition extensively on my wellness patients posts on Facebook. You're welcome to follow that and read the written stuff. I am going to start trying to cover with chronic disease in this format all the way through exercise. I'm going to get on it. I'm going to provide YouTube archives for everything I've covered in wellness patients, because I recognize some people just can't read and maybe they understand things better from this type of venue. So I feel so blessed. I do have to acknowledge that coronavirus has not had as negative an impact on me as it has on many people. You know, my job here as a physician in Cordova hasn't really been affected by the coronavirus in the sense that I haven't been overwhelmed. I feel so sorry for those poor guys managing all these people dying in these places where the disease is dense. My job in the urgent care, again, not that affected. And my wellness practice is going crazy. I mean, it's part of why I kind of gave up on my YouTube videos for a while. I'm so busy with patients now. If there's good things that have come out of this, and there are, we're closer to our families, I hope. my family, when I'm home, we take walks every day with the dogs. We you know, I mean, you're there with your kids all the time, homeschooling them. It's changed things, and so there's some good from that. The other thing I'm seeing is people are starting to focus on their health. My Synergenics practice, through the added venue of telemedicine evaluations, is going crazy. They've given me 9 patients in the last 2 weeks scattered across the country that I've been evaluating through a telemedicine evaluation and helping them, addressing their physiology through extensive laboratory testing, planning on completing the full Synergenics evaluation at a later time, and really helping them to understand what they can do to improve their health and reduce their risk of a bad outcome with this disease. So there's good things that have come from this. I also think we're all going to be a little more mindful about not spreading viral illness. And viral illness is a huge negative factor. So there's all kinds of things that are positive. I sure hope that the virus gives us a break this summer. I am worried that it's going to be a significant recurrence this fall and we're going to be in the same boat. And I don't think it's appropriate to go to the same extremes of mitigation and shut down society again. We're going to have to strike a balance between protecting those that are compromised. The new normal, to get into a nursing home, it's going to be like going through DEFCON 4 to see a loved one in a nursing home. And that's going to be appropriate. That's the highest risk population that we have. But just keep a balance, keep a good outlook, get outside, love the Lord. Such a blessing. Planet Earth, so amazing. It's not going anywhere. And if the 14-day mandatory quarantine for people coming into Alaska gets lifted, I want you to keep in mind one thing. Lowest percentage of positive tests, lowest percentage of people infected per population, lowest density of human beings on planet Earth, easy to social distance, and we can provide you with the highest quality protein on planet Earth, full of healthy anti-inflammatory fats, one of the greatest antioxidant molecules known to man, astaxanthin, which is what gives salmon its red color, sunshine, outdoors, fresh air, and I hope we're going to be open for business, but I just don't know. You can check us out at www.allalaska.com. All right, talk to you later. Oh yeah, one other thing. Be resourceful. I think I'll get a couple, 3 more sets of those. Finally figured out a way to do some pull-ups in Cordova. Over and out. Some brief final thoughts as I stare at the chair of pain. You will not attain your own personal highest level of health and wellness without some pain and sacrifice. The pain's pretty obvious. The healthiest form of exercise is intense exercise, and it causes pain, and most of us are adverse to that. But I encourage you to push your envelope and get used to it. The level of pain on each of the last reps that I did on my 4 sets of pull-ups there was intense. A level of pain I probably couldn't endure for a prolonged duration, though my reason for quitting usually isn't the pain, it's actually the point of failure, meaning there's no ability to contract anymore from reaching the lactate threshold, which we've talked about. But there's also sacrifice, and I just chuckled as I was getting ready to leave, which brought me to this little addition to the YouTube video. I was leaving the ski hill here. This is a little kiddie ski hill where my kids participated in learning to ski this year, a little, or enhancing their skiing ability. And as I was walking to my truck over there, I come to find something in the snow. Probably been there since it fell out of some child's pocket. Preserved in the snow, likely perfectly safe. Chance it fell out of my daughter Rachel's pocket, as it's her favorite candy. And you know, I had a little bit of a late breakfast this morning. I didn't get my scrambled eggs with mushrooms, onions, bell peppers, and broccoli sauteed in avocado oil down until 10:30. I got a little tied up with emails and stuff. And I didn't pack my snack food today, my Gorp, with me. I've already loaded it. Today it's a mixture of dried, heavily seasoned garden peas, dried, lightly seasoned garbanzo beans, a small handful of walnuts, a small handful of almonds, a small handful of raw sprouted pumpkin seeds, a small handful of goji berries, and 4 small squares of 95% organic dark chocolate, along with I got one other thing in there. I'm drawing a blank. Some of the little vegetable balls that I get that are quite good. I forget the name of them, but you guys can recall them from previous videos. So I'm a little grumbly, and look what God put in front of me. I'm sure they're safe, perfectly preserved, but you know, one of the sacrifices you have to do is show a little willpower. Sometimes you have to not do things you want to do because you know they're bad for you. Anyways, I hope you found some inspiration from today. I'm going to start covering more things you can do for your health and quit dwelling on the horrible predicament we're in from this virus. I think I'll go back to the room and start working on editing. Take care, guys.